Love Luna.
Hello, and welcome to the final episode of Self-Love Lessons with Luna for 2019. Christmas is done. I hope you had an absolutely wonderful time, no matter what you did this Christmas. If it was with friends, if it was with family, if you spent it alone watching movies because that was your jam and that's what you wanted to do, then I hope that it was a day that you reflect upon as well spent. Can you believe that 2020 is now upon us? In just a few short days, we will be ending the decade. Not just the year, mind you, but the decade. We're coming into a whole new 10 years. We're coming to a space where 2020 will meet 2030. If you look back for a second on the last 10 years, how much change has happened? How many things have happened in your life in a whole decade? Sometimes it might feel like it goes really quickly, but then when you reflect upon it, you see how much you may have done in that period of time. So for this week's episode of Self-Love Lessons with Luna, I want to talk to you about how to really prepare yourself for the new year. I have sucked at New Year's resolutions in the past, and there's a really good reason why they don't stick for most people. So we're going to explore all of this, why goal setting might not be the way for you to go, how to actually create a structure so you can set up yourself to reflect on the last 10 years and the last 12 months, release what you no longer need, plan for what's coming in the future, and welcome the kind of environment and the kind of beliefs that you want to move forward in the next 10 years. I have set so many New Year's resolutions in my life, and I can't think of any that I've set as a structural New Year's resolution and they've actually stuck. Most of the time my New Year's resolutions were about losing weight or quitting smoking. Back in the day, that's what I focused on. I haven't smoked for about 12 years, but that was always on my list. Oh, I better quit smoking. Oh, I better lose weight. Oh, I better get more money. I better do this. They were never from a place of like real desire to change. I often find that New Year's resolutions are like the ultimate Monday. You know how you start the change on a Monday? Start the diet on a Monday. Oh, I'll quit smoking on Monday. I'll do that on Monday. The first day of the year is like the ultimate Monday. Except the funny thing about this is that most people, or a whole bunch of people, have a really late night on New Year's Eve. So the 31st of December isn't really the best place to start your new year because people are often hungover. At least you've had a late night. You've been gorging yourself over Christmas, it's likely, and having a jolly good relaxing time. So starting on the 1st of January isn't normally something that works. In fact, most people start their New Year's resolutions maybe on the 2nd or 3rd. And then before you know it, Australia Day hits us, more public holidays. February rocks around, you're just starting a rhythm, getting back into work. Before you know it, it's Easter and it's chocolate time again. At least that's what it was like for me. That was my experience of it. I might be able to hold on for 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 2 months, 3 months, maybe at best. But the resolution to completely change everything about my life never stuck. And I'm going to tell you why, and also what you can do differently. I'm not opposed to creating new goals. I'm certainly not opposed to having things to aim towards. I think that that's really positive. But if you're doing it from a place of not enough, if you're doing it from a place of I better because it's the new year, it's really unlikely to stick. Because we can all have these grand plans for the new year. And in this case, grand plans for the new decade. Yeah, I'm going to be this person. I'm going to finally do all the things that I never got to do. But if you don't really have a plan on how to do that, then you're not going to. And in fact, furthermore, if you are not changing who you are, if you're not changing the being, then it's very unlikely that your doing will change for a very long time. Because then it relies upon willpower. And willpower runs out. This is the difference between motivation and inspiration. Motivation, you can picture somebody with a whip flogging you, or you're motivated, you will get out of the way of the whip. But as soon as they stop whipping you, you're out of there. Whereas inspiration is you're at the front and you want to and you lead and you're excited. Inspiration coming from internally, motivation coming externally. We can liken this to have to versus want to. If you have to do something, it feels like a chore. But when you want to start exercising because it feels good, when you want to move your body in a meaningful way because you want to treat it really well, you're far more likely to stick to it. But if you have to do it, oh, I better because I ate heaps of food over Christmas, it's not going to stick because your being isn't changing, it's only your doing. Willpower is much the same. Willpower will only get you so far. If you don't make a decision about yourself and who you want to be, then the willpower will run out, and so will your behavior. Long-term change happens when we change who we are, our values, what we believe in. If maybe exercise is something that you'd like to do more of in your life, because you feel like you have to, because you've got to lose weight, because the world tells you that the way you are isn't perfect, then you might go out and you might exercise, but you probably hate it. Probably won't enjoy it. And again, it'll become a chore. But if you change who you are, if you learn to love your body and find an activity that you really enjoy, then it won't be a chore. It'll be something lovely that you get to do for yourself. And that's the difference between change that comes from doing and change that comes from being. Success breeds success. So if you're able to have small wins on a regular basis, you will feel more successful and be more compelled to do the thing that makes you successful. If your only measure of success is this big long-term goal, like that you're not successful until you've lost 10 kilos or you're not successful until the end of the year, then you're likely to lose sight of your goals. You're likely to lose sight and feel deflated and unmotivated. But for a second, what if your measure of success was effort or consistency? Ever since the beginning of this year, 2019, I made a decision that I wanted to have the skill of being able to play the piano. And in the past, what it was easy for me to do was decide that I was going to play the piano for an hour every single day because that's what it took, and be committed. Rah! But I knew that I couldn't do that. I couldn't commit to an hour every day. And I once had somebody say to me, well, if you did commit to an hour every day, you'd be heaps better. I said, sure, but I wouldn't. So you have to know yourself. I made a decision at the beginning of this year that I would be committed to 10 minutes of piano practice every single day. And even then, it's most days. If I'm away from my piano, obviously I can't. If I'm sick, then obviously I don't. But 10 minutes every single day has added up over these 365 odd days where I can read music in 3 different keys. I know the major and minor scales really well. And my skills are developing 10 minutes a day. This was not a New Year's resolution. Oh, I'm gonna start to play the piano. Just like it's a skill that I want to learn. And I know that with any skill, it takes practice and consistency. So if I do small bits every single day, then that's going to add up far more than practicing once a week for an hour. So when we think about coming into this new version of New Year's resolutions, I really want you to change your thinking here. Not what do I want to do, what do I want to achieve, or what outcomes do I want to have this year? But ask yourself the question, who do I want to be? Who's the being inside of you that you want to be? Do you want to be someone who's committed, dedicated, kind, disciplined? Because that's what it takes to achieve these goals, right? If you don't change the being, you won't achieve them. So let's focus on who we're being rather than on what we're doing. And what we're doing will be a flow-on effect of who we're being. I learned this pretty amazing structure from a business mentor of mine called Kerwin Ray. I'm going to make this a really simple version for you. For us, something that you can sit down and take 10 minutes to get really clear on perhaps what you're letting go of, but more so who you want to be in the new year, who you want to be in this new decade. So you're going to need a little bit of time to do this, maybe 10 or 15 minutes. If you've got longer, then please take it. Bring out a new fresh bit of paper in your journal or somewhere where you keep notes. And what I want you to do is have a think about who you want to be for the next 10 years. When you get to 2030, who have you been building your life to become? Who have you been becoming gradually over the 10 years? Not that for the 9.5 years of 2020 onwards, you were being whoever you are now, and then for the last 6 months you were like, quickly! But who do you want to be and develop and grow into over the next 10 years? So step one is all about creating a vision. This is an abstract, big concept of what's going to happen from 2020 to 2030. What kind of theme you want to have, or what overarching vision do you want to have for the next 10 years? So for example, mine is to expand into my greatness. Yeah, it's big, it's abstract, it doesn't necessarily have anything to grab onto. But this is going to be your foundation. So we can call up this is like the top of the charts. And then we're going to build every single block underneath that. Step two is all about who you're being. As I said before, if you don't change who you are, then what you're doing doesn't change either. Certainly not for long. So you really want to be able to make who you're being into something that's important to you. Something that you value. Who do you want to be? Do you want to be a nicer friend to yourself? Do you want to be more generous? Do you want to take more time to be present with your family? Write down the top 5 being achievements that you wish to achieve this year. Not in the next 10 years, but in the next 12 months. Who are you deciding to be this year? For example, one of mine is to be a role model to teenagers. Another is to be committed and dedicated to the things that I want to achieve in my life. Another is to be present, kind and compassionate to myself first and foremost, and of course then on to others. To be courageous and adventurous. These are the things that I want to be more of, step into more significantly in my life. These are the being states that I wish to have. That peace and contentment feeling comes first, and then the doing will come later. With step 2.1, what I want you to do is create a theme word. Something that kind of arches over all of those 5 things that you've just created. What is that for you? You know, for me, for example, it would be peace. My overarching theme for 2020 is peace. And I want everything that I do to bring me peace, and if it doesn't, I need to change it. Do you see the theme that's happening here? My being is more important than my doing. Who we are on the inside and our inner peace is more important than what we achieve on the outside. This helps us build our self-esteem and know that our worth is internal, not based on what we achieve, what we do, what we have, or what we look like. Step number 3 is about setting doing examples of the 5 being examples we just created. So for my example of being a dedicated and committed to my goals, will be that one of my doing activities is to become a confident and competent pianist by playing regularly. Do you see what we're doing there? We've got a being target that we want to be, peaceful. Then we've got a doing thing that's attached to it. So that might be that you want to meditate regularly, start joining classes or whatever it happens to be. We have a being target, and then we couple it up with a doing activity. If the doing activity does not support the being activity or the vision that you created earlier, then you're off kilter. If when you're writing down doing tasks and it's making you feel tight and constricted and like, oh my God, that's going to stress me out, and one of your being states is to be relaxed and go easy on yourself, then you're off track. Try again. Make sure that your doing is always aligned with your being and your vision. That's the most important part. Also, when you're doing this exercise, make sure that you're doing things that are well within your control. It's really easy to say, I want to lose 20 kilos, if that's what you're trying to do, right? You actually don't have any control of if that happens. But what you do have control over is what you put in your mouth, the way that you exercise, and the kind of rest that you get. Those are things that you can control. We cannot very often control the outcome. The result is something that is up to the ether. Perhaps there's things that are in your way, biological with your body, that you don't know of. But you can move and do the steps that you can take in order to move towards health. Step number 4, you're going to set achievable goals. So to make success really easy for yourself. Literally what you're going to do is write down a daily, weekly or monthly thing. So for me, for example, 10 minutes a day of piano, of practice, and 5 minutes of theory is what I'm committed to. If I do that 5 days a week, then I know that I'm moving towards my doing target as well as my being of being able to stay committed, dedicated, but also peaceful and relaxed. So go ahead and set some daily, weekly, monthly, practical success markers that you can do on a regular basis to lead you towards the bigger goals. This is all about you being able to achieve things sensibly and in a way that is planned, but it's also built from support. If you just set goals because you think that you're meant to set goals and they're a good one to do, that's unlikely to actually achieve them. But when you start with this vision of how you want your life to be, you break it down about who you want to be, filter that out into your theme of who you are and what you want for 2020, build it out with some doing examples of that, and then filter it back down into achievable success markers, then you will slowly but surely start to see improvements with who you are and what your being is doing on a regular basis. Before you know it, the year will be over, you can reflect upon it, and you'll actually feel good about having consistency and being able to get towards your goals much more easily. The breaking it down is really helpful. This way you have broken from the top all the way down to the bottom, and then you can work from the bottom out across the year. You know what you need to be doing every day, every week, every month because of the work that you've done up the top with the vision and the yearly plan. I know that so many people have a bit of a rough time with New Year's resolutions, or they don't care about them, or they know that they're going to set them and then their goals aren't going to be achieved. So share this with somebody who you think might get some value out of it. Each week, new episodes come out on a Friday. If you would like to be notified, just hit subscribe, turn on your alerts on YouTube, and you'll get notified straight away so you'll never have to miss an episode. These episodes also come out on Facebook as well as Instagram TV, so share as much as you possibly can. Give value this year to somebody who perhaps needs it. If you have any suggestions of videos that you would like me to do, please just comment below. I'll get in touch, send me a PM, a DM, wherever we are chatting, wherever we are connected, and I would absolutely love to hear from you, your thoughts, your feelings, your suggestions. Till next week, happy self-loving.